What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction. Can't find my tripod today, so we're going to do this a little jankier, just like we used to back in the good old days of like a month or two ago when I couldn't find my tripod. And I would just have a camera, and it would be shaky, and that's it. This is going to be a little less exciting than usual because this is a book of scripts. So it is prose right here. And this is by Paul Kupperberg. And the reason I got this is because I actually tagged him on Twitter with my Supergirl review, and then he tagged back saying, because I was asking about how it ended in Crisis and all that, and he goes, well, guess what? I've got a book. And he posted it, and what happened with the Supergirl series was it got canceled. I was wondering what happened. I thought Crisis was going to come right after that. But they were actually canceling Superboy and Supergirl, and they were going to relaunch it as a new title called, it was DC Double Comics. And both of them were going to have adventures in there. I guess Paul Kupperberg was going to write both of them because that's what exists in here. These are Superboy and Supergirl stories, and there's 3 issues of Superboy, 2 issues of Supergirl. The last one's not complete. And that's it. So I guess word came down at the end of that second Supergirl one while he was writing it that Crisis was then going to happen, and so it never was. So that's that with this, and I was curious about this because of a couple of reasons. One, I was curious because Supergirl, well, just for one reason really, Supergirl's plot threads were left completely dangling, especially on the romance end of things with her boyfriend Phil, and then this guy Dick Malvern, I believe is his name, showing up, who is back from Supergirl history and all that. And I guess these panels are from pencils that were going to be done for these issues. He's got a couple. He's got one introducing Supergirl just like this. And then it goes into an introduction which talks about the storylines themselves, and then it actually summarizes the scripts that are coming. So I learned a bit about Superboy. These are not collected anywhere, so while Supergirl is collected in the Daring Adventures of Supergirl trade paperbacks, which is how I read them and reviewed them, I'll leave those links in the comment down below. Superboy is not. I'm going to get this out of the way. I actually did not go read through these scripts because I didn't read Superboy before this, so I would have had no idea what's going on, but I was interested based on this. And I guess that Superboy in the 70s was just a young Clark Kent and in Smallville, and so they didn't really worry about modern time continuity and all that, and it was just Clark Kent growing up and dealing with learning his powers and things like that. Really cool thing. And just from hearing about it, it does remind me of the Smallville TV show that came out a lot later, so very similar stuff going on here. Kupperberg was creating a love triangle with Lana Lang and some other blonde girl in town, and was having Clark deal with that. And this other girl was really into Clark as a person, and he was going to import her over to Superman and have her show up and kind of be obsessed with Clark later on, which would have been very interesting. Cool subplot. I like that. And then they were developing a couple different things through that Superboy comic, including this group called the Galaxians, where I did read this because this is pretty fun. This is just his pitch for the Galaxians, who are just superpowered beings who are going to show up throughout Superboy, and then eventually they were going to get together and work together and come together over that. So you get their name, you get their Earth identity, you get their age, you get a little summary of their powers and who they are. Very nice proposal, very cool little comic book history right there. And then it gets directly into the Superboy scripts, of which, of course, as I mentioned, I kind of skipped over because I was not reading that title. I would like to read that title. I hope DC collects it at some point so I can get into it, because it's pretty neat stuff from what it sounds like. Right up my alley. Just fun, wholesome comics like they used to make. Oh well. And then we get into the Supergirl stuff, and this is really interesting. So Supergirl ended with, of course, that Dick Malvern guy showing up. It was going to create a weird love triangle thing. Her boyfriend Phil was a strange character who there was something off about him, and we didn't exactly know the answer to it. And so they were going to relaunch and then kind of tie up those plot threads in this new DC Double, was it? DC Double Comics. Which is DC. That's cute. Okay. and relaunch Supergirl kind of in a new direction also. Pretty neat stuff. I loved reading the script for this. And so there's two scripts. There's DC Double Comics number 1, which is 24-pager, and then number 2, which is a 16-pager. Unfortunately, the script didn't even end because I guess he got word that things were going to be canceled for Crisis right in the middle of writing this, and womp womp, that was the end of that. Now, the first issue, interestingly enough, actually, this is page 13, so this is where it stopped, and so we had 3 pages of what could have been out there. But the first one actually was a full, complete issue, and it was actually done, apparently it was penciled, and the scripts were reverse engineered because they didn't actually have the script based on what the pencils were. So there's a description of each panel, and then, of course, the dialogue there, which is pretty neat. I would like to see that. That's a pretty cool thing that would be awesome to release. I don't know why they wouldn't, but oh well. And so the direction changed where Supergirl actually went to, and in this timeline before Crisis and all that, they had Kara's like planet and I guess a city shot off of Krypton, and it kind of survived, and they had a new Krypton where a bunch of Kryptonians were living, and they brought that back. I think they brought that back at some point in the newer universe, but they're trying to get rid of all the Kryptonians in Crisis and just have Superman and streamline things. But this one was going to have Kara. She was going off and visiting New Krypton. She was going to learn like the Krypton martial arts there and become a better fighter. And you get to kind of learn her background on that. Meanwhile, all of her, I guess her 2 boyfriends in the love triangle here. He loves the love triangle. I mean, if he's doing them in both of these series, were searching after him. Now, there is a little bit of an allusion to the fact that I guess this Phil guy might have been a superpowered being disappearing himself, and that is why he was so sketchy, which is kind of obvious from what was going on in the series before, but we didn't know much about it. So I would have liked to have seen that explored and seen a lot of this stuff go down. And we also got a nice little tie-up, or a nice, I guess, reintroduction to a new plot thread with that Dick Malvern guy, who came from her orphanage back when she was young and followed her and wants to rekindle their love relationship right before she leaves for Krypton here. So, everybody's very worried because she's disappeared for a couple weeks. And then it starts with a cool, countdown time plot where this new Krypton disappears and reappears only once a year or something like that. And phases out of our dimension or whatever it is. So she has to get out of there before it phases out. Very fun. It didn't end, unfortunately, so I didn't get all my questions answered for the storyline, which is a bummer. But this was totally worth the read. If you like that Daring Adventures of Supergirl, you should definitely check this out. This is a nice little, or if you're just a DC fan in general, this is a nice little piece of comic history. And if you read those Superboy books, like I said, they're not collected, so I'm not going to read them until they are collected. This seems to be a nice little bonus for that as well. Good stuff. I love finding stuff like this because it's so rare and so different, and a lot of people don't hear about stuff like this. So, I don't know. My conclusion, just based on this, I was talking to my wife. I'm like, I could never even imagine working for one of these companies and then having a storyline, having it canceled and relaunched, and trying to rejigger it so it's a new series, and then having that canceled before it even comes out because they want to go a new direction with editorial. I could not work for one of these companies. I would lose my cool so fast in that situation with all these dangling plot threads that aren't finished, and that's probably why they would never hire me. So there you go. This was fun. Totally worth the read. It's pretty short. You can read this very quickly because it's scripts, and I would say this is just great reading, worth your time. I'll put the Amazon link down below for everybody. Leave a comment. What do you think? Is this kind of stuff cool? Is it just me? Am I just too deep into this stuff? I don't know. And then hit that like and subscribe button. I'll be back later.